There is no straight line to get anywhere. And I went into the Navy to be a nuclear technician.
Oh, wow. Okay.
While I was there in boot camp, right before you get ready to graduate, they give you one opportunity to review your orders. And I reviewed my orders and I saw that it had me going to a submarine.
Oh, wow.
I had no desire to be on a submarine. And so they gave me the opportunity at that time to pick a new career. They gave me 10 minutes to find a new job and laid out all the jobs in front of me.
Like literally 10 minutes?
Literally
Oh
10
my God.
minutes. They laid out all the jobs in front of me. I called my older sister, who was in the Navy, and I said, hey, which job should I pick? She said, do air traffic control. I said, okay. Hung up, told them I do air traffic control, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Today, I'm joined by Nick Fuller, a leader known for his commitment to safety and to people. Nick serves as the Acting Deputy Chief Operating Officer for the FAA's Air Traffic Organization and recently was tapped to lead the agency's Safety Management System organization, reporting directly to the FAA Administrator. I'm excited to talk to Nick about leadership and the lessons he learned. Let's get into it.
This is Kobec on Air. CEO and co-founder Hisham built a workplace that people trust. Now he's interviewing other people-first leaders to explore what shapes them. Today's episode of Kobec on Air is brought to you by Kobec. We help organizations improve processes, decision-making, and performance. Stay tuned for more.
Mr. Nick Fuller, the FAA's acting Deputy Chief Operating Officer. That's a huge role. I know you're extremely busy keeping us safe in the skies, so thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show. It's lovely to talk to someone like you because the role that you must have. And I was looking at your career, which, as we said, I couldn't find your LinkedIn, but I did find a bio of you on the FAA website. I mean, you've been working in safety since at least the Navy, right? You started in the Navy?
Started in the Navy in 1995.
As air traffic controller?
As an air traffic controller.
And, worked through, I see on here, you were worked as a level 11 and 12 operational manager. Is that correct?
Supervisor. And controller,
okay.
Yes.
And then you were Deputy Director in Central Service Area for Air Traffic Operations, Executive Director of AOV, which is Air Traffic Safety Oversight, and then Vice President of Safety and Technical Training. So safety is a big piece of your career, and that's a really big deal. So thanks for joining us. So I like to go back, get to know you. Where you're from?
So originally I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Graduated high school, went to college for a year, didn't take. So then went to the U.S. military, or like you said, I was a Navy controller. Left the Navy and hired directly into the FAA as an air traffic controller in Kansas City Center. Spent time there as a controller supervisor before transferring down to Fort Worth Center as a supervisor. At that point is when I really started my career in safety. Helped stand up the voluntary safety reporting program for the air traffic controllers, or ATSAP, as I'm sure you probably heard. Transitioned from there to stand up the Quality Assurance Service Center group. Spent, a couple of years there before I got the itch to go back to the field and went over to Dallas Fort Worth TradeCon as a operations manager. Transitioned to be the senior advisor for the director of air traffic in the Central Service Area. The deputy director position came open. Originally, I wasn't going to bid on it, but the director at the time asked me, quite honestly, if I didn't want to work for a bad deputy director, then I should probably bid on the position myself. And so I took his advice, bid on the position, got selected, stayed there in Fort Worth for some years until about 2022, when the opportunity came to be the Deputy Vice President of Safety here in Washington, D.C. Originally, it was supposed to be 6 months. And fast forward 4 years later, I'm still here in Washington, D.C. So various opportunities.
So so you went to college and then you're like, this isn't my thing, to the military. But what drew you into like air traffic control? It's a very kind of unique and specific thing.
Quite honestly, when I went into the military, I did not know what air traffic control was. It wasn't a thing for me. And so it's one of life's just twists and turns. We talked about before we started the podcast about there is no straight line to get anywhere. And I went into the Navy to be a nuclear technician.
Oh, wow. Okay.
While I was there in boot camp, right before you get ready to graduate, they give you one opportunity to review your orders. And I reviewed my orders and I saw that it had me going to a submarine.
Oh, wow.
I had no desire to be on a submarine. And so they gave me the opportunity at that time to pick a new career. They gave me 10 minutes to find a new job and laid out all the jobs in front of me.
Like literally 10 minutes?
Literally 10 minutes. They laid out all the jobs in front of me. I called my older sister, who was in the Navy, and I said, hey, which job should I pick? She said, do air traffic control. I said, okay. Hung up, told them I do air traffic control, and the rest is history.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so it's just one of those, curves in the road that you can go left or right, and air traffic just happened to be the one for me.
Yeah, I was just watching something on YouTube about the subs that you're just talking about. There's like a Virginia class, the ones with the nuclear ballistic missiles, but they were taking us inside and see how they live, and it's tight in there.
It's a different
It
lifestyle.
is, and they don't, you don't leave for months, right? And they're sleeping like little bunks, and they get to know each other really well.
Yes.
So yeah, I think from the outside, it's like, oh, it sounds cool, but I'm like, man, that's you got to be cool with being claustrophobic, I think, and sort of not seeing the sun for a while. But as far as like how life turns out, it's never what we talked about this. I think with our last guest was a general from the Air Force. Just like, he didn't really think that's where he was going to end up. Like if you asked me, 30 years ago, would I have been a general in the Air Force? Like, no, like, and I think that could be a lesson to either young leaders or just young people in general, that sometimes people have a mindset, or maybe they get disappointed if things don't go their way, but that's life. And I think sometimes you have to kind of adapt. And that's what I think makes people who they are. I think going through the journeys, ups and downs. And I think as leaders, that's also a thing that happens all the time. I mean, you set out, you think you want to do something, and you're going to do this and tell people this, and you're going to have this like amazing plan. And then it seems like it doesn't always work out. Almost always something happens.
Or it may work out just in a different way
In a
than you
different way,
expected.
yeah.
I didn't foresee my career being on the safety side of the house until I went back to school and took online courses about aviation safety at Embry-Riddle. And that really piqued my interest in the aviation safety and what we could do, especially when you do some of the case studies on, all the different steps along the way where you can prevent an accident. And then that's totally shifted me from just being an operational person to moving over toward the safety side of the house, and figuring out all the different causal factors and things that we could work on to improve the aviation safety community and really enhance air traffic. And so again, it was another shift after that by just, a course that I took in pursuit of an aviation management degree that totally shifted my direction there.
And you started in leadership roles pretty early on, it sounds like, right? How is that? Sometimes that's another thing where people sometimes either, I think in our society, part of the promotions or the career path leads to management, but not every individual contributor who's really good should be a leader necessarily, or a manager, if you will. And so, I mean, did you find that like, hey, I'm doing good, they want to promote me, but then you got in that role, and then did you, how did that feel? Like, because now you're kind of, you're looking out for other people, right? You're not kind of worried about yourself as much. Did that come like naturally to you, or did you have to kind of figure out how that would work?
It actually was something I stepped in. I walked through the door at Kansas City Center and said, "No, I want to be the boss."
Really?
Yeah, I didn't want to stay down there working traffic for the entire time. And so I'll never forget my first day in the door. I wore slacks, dress shirt, tie, and the fac rep at the time came down and had a conversation with me. He's like, "Hey, you can't wear ties." Like, why can't I wear ties? We fought long and hard not to have to wear ties. Don't wear ties. I said, okay, I won't wear ties anymore. But at that time, you had to have 3 years as a controller before you could bid on a supervisor job. And I made it clear, like, as soon as I get 3 years, I'm bidding on a supervisor job. And everybody said, okay, you won't get it. But as soon as 3 years and 1 day hit and there was a job vacancy, I bid on a supervisor position there. I think it was 25, maybe.
Wow.
And I got picked up as a supervisor there at Kansas City Center. And those same people that told me I would never get picked up were now on my crew working for me. And so, I didn't let their opinion sway me one way or the other, but I came through the door saying I wanted to be in charge. Now, I had no idea I would be gone through so many different levels of management. I just wanted to be in charge of that building. It's something I clearly set out for.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if you were to describe, I mean, I lead a company that does more like consulting kind of work, and the in and outs, things like that, right? We're advisory and helpful, but we're not safety critical, right? So, I mean, how does that pressure? I mean, it sounds like you handle it pretty well, right? But is it different? Do you think like it's different to manage or lead people in that environment where you have life and death situations going on, and you're in charge of motivate them and make sure they're doing what they're doing, but there is that sort of like critical safety piece in the background.
I think we all try and do the best we can. Every controller, every safety technician, every employee comes in, they want to do the best job they can. And as a leader, your goal is to put them in the position, provide them the guidance, tools, whatever they need to do the best they can. And the real pressure for me is once I leave, trusting that that message sticks and resonates and they continue down that path. That's the real nerves, if you will. And so the more you go up the leadership line and the more when you're on a crew and you've got 6 or 7 employees that you work with every day, you know they're hearing the message. You know they understand what you expect. You got that direct visibility. As you go up the line, you have more and more employees that you never see, you
Mhm.
never meet. You trust that your message is going through the 7, 8, 9 different layers of management and that they're hearing it exactly as you intended, yeah, and are following through with it. That's where a bit of the anxiety occurs. And when you have something negative that happens, then you have to go back and reverse engineer and see where either the message was lost or there was drift or something occurred where how they performed wasn't exactly as you expected.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That must be. I mean, and some people you've never met. How many people work for you technically?
Technically, I probably have over 22,000 employees that
Yeah.
work for me.
So definitely you've not met all of them.
No,
That'd be
absolutely not.
impossible. And so that, I mean, that's a different, environment. I mean, we have 100 and I guess we added 4 more this week, which
Yeah.
is pretty exciting. But so 109 people at Kobeck, and it's easier to get to know. Even then, it's hard to know, like to have a really strong relationship with every single person, right? But we know each other. We can communicate. But yeah, with 22,000, it's a different type of leadership. It's probably, I assume there's a little bit more, what you say, not directly to them, or how you present yourself is a bigger example, because you don't have the opportunity to then explain to each person what you really meant, or why did I do this, right? You just don't have that opportunity. So probably everything you do is watch closely. Man, that's weird, but you know what I mean.
Everything is watched closely, but I think the importance is the consistency of message, right? So if I'm giving that message and direction to every single one of my vice presidents, and they're giving the exact same message to every one of their deputy vice presidents, and you trust that it's trickling down from there. Where the biggest diversion you see is if one of those vice presidents heard something different or didn't get the intent of what you were explaining, then it's not just that one vice president. There's another few thousand employees that are off the path. And so it's making sure that I'm having consistent communication with my vice presidents and their deputy vice presidents so that at least at the senior level, we all have the same messaging, same intent, constantly reinforcing it. And that is ideally how it will waterfall down and cascade.
Yeah, and you're using the word trust a lot. And by the way, Mr. Jeff Planty, one of your former colleagues,
Former boss.
former boss at one point, former VP at the FAA, he was really excited about you talking with me today. And he says you are known to be decisive, have a great sense of humor, and very trustworthy. And I think trust is big, and you use the word a few times. As you've moved up the ranks, you come in. I think sometimes people always view a new person with like, okay, let's see what he's going to do. And so you have to take some time to build the trust. I mean, so what are some tactics that you'd like to employ that kind of help you build trust with people?
Again, I think it's consistency of behavior. And so everyone ideally knows what they're getting. And myself, when I show up for a position, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but they'll know they'll get honesty from me. They'll know they'll get direct communication. I'll make a decision. I'll stand behind it. They know they'll get top cover from me if they're following my direction. They won't have to worry about me throwing them under the bus or shifting in the wind. Once I make a decision, that's the way we're going. And so that makes it easier for them to trust what I say I'm going to do and the support I'm going to provide, that they're going to get that. Because I in government work, you don't make any extra money once you go up past a certain position. You're only doing it because you care about the work and you care about the outcome. And so for me, it's big. And so my employees know I'm not doing this for a title. I'm not doing this for the pay. I'm doing it because I care and it matters to me. And so when I say I'm going to do something, or I say that this is what I expect from them, they know it to be true, because you go up and down the FAA and find somebody that broke my word to you. You can't find one. Now, they may not be happy with the message I gave them, but it will be the truth, and they will hear it every time they talk to me.
That's great. Wow. That's that's really important, I think. And I think people, if that's what, it sounds like that's who you are. That's pretty awesome. Now let me ask you. So I had Chris Wilbanks on here. He's a VP of mission support, JV. Um, he's a known athlete. He likes to run at crazy hours in the morning.
Yes, he does.
At 4 a.m. But it's that he has a strong discipline. I think you have a similar discipline. So you do martial arts, you do jujitsu. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm still a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Still teach, train, and compete when I can.
Don't mess with you. I got it. I
No,
won't
no,
mess with you.
no.
But so I mean, is there some of that you naturally use in leading people in your job? Like, is there some discipline aspect to that you bring to the table?
So when they do the strength finders that everybody goes through the thing?
Yeah.
So my number one strength finder is competition. My number two is achievement. So I think those two things naturally bleed over into jujitsu, running like Chris does, air traffic, because it's a profession where there are no small mistakes. You may get away with it one time, but it was a significant mistake. It just didn't, the holes didn't line up. But it takes 100% perfection or dedication every 100% of the time. And so I think some of those competitive behaviors, some of those, characteristics of being an achiever lend themselves to doing that. I think that's probably going to find that in most high functioning level executive employees.
Are you a routine guy? Does that keep you kind of, I guess, sane and focused?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I have to work out in the morning and do another workout in the evening.
Well, you do 2 days?
I do 2 a days. They're not the
What?
same. It's weights in the
Oh
morning,
my gosh.
jujitsu in the evening,
Okay.
and those it keeps me focused and it keeps me on my routine. It keeps my pattern going. I get up in the morning, I work out, I read emails as I'm working out. I know when I'm walking into the office, what's on my slate. I've thought through some things of what I need to accomplish for the day. Work as hard as I can for the day. Go home,
Choke some people
decompress.
out. That actually is a good, work out in the morning and then choke people at night. I like it. What time do you get up though?
4:30 in the morning.
Okay. All right. And Chris was talking about he makes coffee and a shake
in the first 5 minutes, 4 to 4:05.
He's using like his foot or his hand. I'm not sure what he's doing, but I think there's something to routine. I mean, I've been doing a little bit of routine myself, and it keeps you kind of grounded. It keeps you going. And if it's disrupted, it feels bad, right? And it almost takes a while to recover from it. If you go like on vacation or something, you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna skip a couple of days. It really messes with you. And I think the getting up I'm not a morning person, but I am now, if that makes sense. I think if I didn't have a job, I think I would slowly get up later. But I find that I'm clear in the morning. I can do things faster. Like sometimes at night, I'm sitting there and I can't finish a sentence. All right, I'm tapped out. In the morning, I can write, pages, right? And so I think that routine's important. It kind of keeps you going.
Yeah, there's a guy named Jocko Willink. I'm sure you probably heard of him.
Course, yeah.
But he's ex-Navy, jiu-jitsu practitioner, Navy SEAL, of course. And he talks about you get up in the morning, first thing you do is make your bed, do your coffee, do your dishes, whatever it is. And no matter what else happens the rest of the day, you've accomplished these three things, right? So, I kind of take that approach. I get up in the morning, make my bed, do my coffee, go work out. No matter what else happens the rest of the day, I know I've achieved those three things. And
it's a good way to look.
It sets you up for success, I think, for the rest of the day.
Yeah, my thing is if I don't work out by 10 a.m., I'm going to end up eating like McDonald's or something. But it's that concept of like the day's shot if I haven't done something valuable.
It sends you down that same spiral. Well, I didn't do my normal routine by 10, so I might as well make the whole rest of the day a total loss.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a very high up senior leader in the government and mission critical type of role, you have a lot of leaders that work for you. What are some things that you look for in leaders that that you think like, hey, this person has kind of what it takes to be the next step in your eyes?
I would say that the first one is the motivation. What's really motivating to do the work? Because I've known people that are just interested in a title has not worked out. If your only motivation is because you want the title of deputy vice president or vice president by your name, then you're in it for the wrong reason. The most successful leaders or people that I've worked with, it's because they actually care about the work that they do and they don't care what title you give them. If you give them a project that's super important to the mission, and let them go, give them autonomy to work on it and stress how important it is, they will get the job done for them no matter what title you put by their name, whether it's, special envoy or senior advisor. Those are the type of people I want with me. And so what you'll often see is, and I have what I call my trusted agents, and I'll tell them like, I don't know where we'll end up, but wherever I am working, you will have a position with me. It might be working the drive-through together, but we'll be there together. And so when I find those people, I make sure I find a spot for them because it's not because they're friends or favorites, because many of them I didn't know until the first time we worked together. But once I observed their work and the traits that they display, I need that kind of person with me no matter where I go and no matter what role I'm in, because they'll be successful and they'll help me be successful.
Yeah, I wonder, you were talking about how, government, you tap out at a certain salary and then it's just motivation, which could be good, or I guess it could be somewhat title based. With private industry, I guess you have potentially all three. So maybe you eliminate at least one potential issue. Although some people do it maybe for the money later. But I, my over 20 plus years working with the government is a lot of government employees, more than I think maybe the USCs as like a whole nation, are extremely motivated and care about the mission. because you could just work in private industry and make a lot more money, like in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, right? So, I mean, I appreciate, government employees that care about the mission. So thank you. Appreciate that. So you probably get asked a lot of questions given your role. What's something that you've always been like, I wish somebody would just ask me this. And it doesn't have to be about FAA or anything like that. But just because I think people probably ask and try to lead you somewhere. But is there something that you're like, man, I wish somebody would just ask me this question? That ever come up?
Not so much something someone would ask me. Often people ask you questions about, what have you done to get you here? And, I think sometimes I wish people would ask me if there's any alternative paths I would have taken or choices that I regret. And there are some things along the way, some paths I wish I'd explored. You often wonder about what could have been or what could have happened or what kind of outcome. And so I have plenty of career regrets of things that maybe I sit and wonder how things could have turned out differently. And it's not because I don't consider myself a success. It's because I often wonder, did I miss an opportunity to have a greater impact somewhere else? Like, hey, yeah, I'm the deputy COO here of air traffic, but I see this nuclear disaster over here. Actually gone to nuclear school. Could I have done something to prevent that? It's one of those things that I often think about. And maybe that's ego, thinking that you can, solve the world's problems. But no one ever asked me, hey, do you wish you had done something different? I never get asked that question.
Well, I have that question here. No, honestly, it's actually, it's a little different, but it's like, because we talked about how sometimes people just end up where they are, right? I mean, some people, I think we talked about the last time, like certain professions or certain people know what they want. Like sometimes doctors, because it's such a long road, you sort of make the decision early. You may regret it, I don't know, but you kind of know where you're going. But everybody else is almost like ends up somewhere. And so I guess the question is, what, if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
So I quite honestly, I probably would have, knowing what I know now, have gone into the financial sector because now knowing what I know in capital investment, things of that nature, I think that would have fixed my competition and my achievement all in one, give me the opportunity for greater expansion, to be quite honest. But more along the lines of, there were people along my career, to be quite honest, that I met, observed some of their work, gave up on them, and they might have gone on and done something significant, but I never gave them that second opportunity. And so I have learned that you got to give people a second chance. I think that's the one biggest thing I've learned going forth in my career. Whereas, if I was an operations manager and a supervisor did something poorly, I'd say that they're never going to be an operations manager for me, or they're never going to do anything else because they screwed up this thing. I think going forward, career wise, I would have gone back to invest more time in developing some of the people that I work with or that have worked for me.
So I have a question about kind of going back in time. Go back. I mean, maybe it's a different answer, but if you were to go back, you have a time machine, go up to your 19-year-old self. What kind of advice would you give yourself?
College is not that hard. Don't go out on Thursday and finish up on Friday. You can make that Friday morning calculus class. It's not that bad.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I don't know. College. So I went to George Mason right here, Fairfax, and I never had like the college experience where, I don't know, the whole like going to a party. I mean, I went to some, but it's different. It's George Mason. So I never lived on campus, never did the whole thing. And I worked I had like a 40-hour job and then went to school. I never really like enjoyed it. I would have gone back and earlier than that and say, don't mess up in high school, because I was just kind of like,
oh yeah,
like F-headed. Thus, I couldn't really get into places I wanted to go. I wanted to go to San Diego State, be on the beach and stuff.
Yeah, San Diego State is a 5-year minimum.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it's good that I didn't go there. Yes. I didn't have opportunity to like go to different places because I didn't think during high school to think about the future in that respect.
Oh yeah, and it wasn't until I was in the military, and I was in the Navy as an air traffic controller, working part-time job as a bouncer at a nightclub, another part-time job selling shoes at Foot Locker, and I would go easily 48 hours going all 3 jobs and not sleeping. But I was the same person, 8 months earlier that couldn't get up for a 8 a.m. calculus class. And so it's like, man, you could have done some of these things and maybe you'd have been, so much further ahead. Who knows? It's the what could have been, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think what you said earlier about like, oh, what if I was a nuclear? What if I was this? I don't know if it's ego. I think it's probably a curiosity, because I think about stuff like that, and it's more about like, I wonder if I could do that. Like, how would that test my brain? Because I think it's more of that sometimes. Like, I don't know. Would I be good at that? I don't know, because it's like you'd have to spend a career probably trying it, right? And, I think that's a normal thing. I think for high performers, it's probably a normal thing, because you're kind of wondering, you're like, I wonder what it takes to do that job. Do I have that? It's like testing yourself a little bit, right? Like, I thought about air traffic control. I'm like, I don't know, could I have done it? Probably not. But I'm like, but I don't know, because I'm not 22 and then looking for a career. And what is that? You can only be 25, 27. You can't be older.
Older than 31. We don't
31.
hire after 31.
Damn it, I missed it by 1 year.
Okay, you were right there at the
Yeah,
cusp.
I was almost, man. I almost signed up. So let's talk about today's and future leaders. What you have all this experience. What is some advice you give people? The young people that are now transitioning to be leaders, want to be leaders. Maybe they just became it. Maybe they're about to be. Given the technology, social media, how people are somewhat disconnected, people on their phones, and just life is different. Like, what are some advice you?
I think there's too many people caught up in this generation. They make these generalities about what the expectations are. I've been amazed by the work of some of the younger people that have worked for me. I've had some interns, 20, 21 years old, come in with novel concepts and ideas and research papers and things that they were sitting at home on a Saturday thinking about, and they spent the weekend making this paper they wanted to present to me because they think it can improve safety. And I think there's opportunities for us to embrace that, encourage it, and enhance it. Now, I also sit and have conversations with my daughter, who's about to be 23, and she'll tell me, I got these 20-year-olds that work for me. They don't want to do anything. So it's a balance of just understanding that there are lots of younger people out there that are just at different times along their life path. Some are still in that little immature phase, but that doesn't mean they can't get there eventually. And they're ready to be leaders right now. Now, the military is one of the best at, you can be 18, 19 years old and you are in charge of some significant equipment and responsibilities critical to national security. And so they don't limit you based on your age. They limit you based on the performance that you show. And I think in the private and government sector, we need to get better at identifying those traits in those younger employees right then and there and give them opportunities to accelerate. Because while you have to have 20 years experience before we get you a supervisory position, you waste a lot of time there, a lot of opportunity and development. And by the time you recognize, oh, this is a great person, they're ready to retire and they move on to something else. And you missed 20 years of excellence you could have squeezed out of them.
And by the way, that Virginia class sub that I saw, they were all 19, 20-year-olds, and they're in charge of nuclear systems, right? And
nuclear
weapons.
missiles.
Well, yeah, nuclear weapons. So, I mean, and then I agree with you about the 20-year thing. And maybe that's, I think large organizations tend to have that sort of, it becomes part of it. It's like, well, you got to wait for this person to retire, slowly move up. But I don't believe in it. I'm trying to like fight it as much as possible at Quebec because, I don't know, I started the business, I was 24. So I kind of like, well, I don't believe in it. I skipped a bunch of, steps, but I think it's easier then because there's nobody expecting to have a career at our organization and they expect me to like be a leader. But now it's obviously different. So like, how do we reduce that 20 years, but give people the successful path? Like, what is it that you need to mentor them and give them the keys to success? And there's all kinds of things. Training, you name it, right? To make sure that they're successful. And a small business is hard because we don't have like these big HR departments and we can say, let's create this process and training. Like we don't have training for a lot of things. It's a lot of like on the job, work with your team. Let's figure this out stuff. So we're trying to balance, giving someone this path, but the path is, we don't have anything written down yet. It's too small. It's too hard to get the bandwidth. But I'm with you as far as like, I'm really looking to find young leaders and future leaders. I think that's like almost my main job in a way. Like, otherwise it's just, the company will just stop at some point, right?
Yeah. Ideally, you would find those people that are natural leaders and then put some guardrails around them where they could explore that leadership and grow. I think too often we rely on technical expertise to be leaders and they aren't equipped for it. One of the best controllers I had told him, you're a phenomenal controller, you're professional, you come in, you do a great job, you should be a supervisor. He bid on the position, got selected as a supervisor. The very first week he was a supervisor, he had to do a conduct issue with an employee. And he said he couldn't sleep for 2 days afterwards. And he resigned from being a supervisor. And I realized we hadn't taken time to develop the managerial side of his development. So needed to recognize, yes, he's technically proficient, but he he was not in a space where he could handle that side of the job. And so, I think we should have spent a little more time investing in that piece because he ended up spending the rest of his career, never bid on another management position, retired and left out of there. We could have spent 2 or 3 months developing those leadership skills, talking to him about having those crucial conversations and those difficult conversations, and probably still been having him on board as a 30-year executive at this time. But it was a missed opportunity.
Are you good at feedback and difficult conversations?
I am good at the difficult conversations. I am good at receiving feedback. What I still to this day work on is the soft skills. I grew up in a military family. I'm ex-military, and I have to practice how I'm going to say something to some employee to not, get them the emotional response. And so it's it's a little it's a fine line between us is easy to tell somebody they're doing a poor job and telling somebody they're doing a poor job, but still retaining the value of that employee and encouraging them to go forward and improve that that aspect. As a third generation military employee, it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, I don't know if it ever gets easier. I mean, I'm sure it gets easier, but maybe it's never supernatural because
It's never fun.
it can't be. Yeah, it never is. And then I don't know. I don't like receiving feedback, but I want to receive feedback. Does that make sense?
That's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean? Which means I like it, but I don't. I mean, because it's like I'm gonna hear something that's not great, but I need to hear it so that I can improve. But then, how do you get other people to feel that same way? I don't know. I think we talked about this at one point. Maybe it was with Tash, but trying to create more of a feedback culture. I mean, there's different thoughts on how to do that. Some people think of sort of a band-aid method, like let's just write down on a piece of paper what you hate about people. I mean, I'm joking, but kind of like, let's read out all the things that, we think this person could be better at. And just take it, don't respond, and just start to build calluses, which I think there's something to that, but that might be a little bit over the top. But there's got to be a way that the more we do it, the more comfortable it is. And I think if it's all about intent. So the intent when you're telling someone to, hey, you messed this up kind of thing is because you're trying to help them versus make them look bad. So how do you get that intent over and have them understand that, not be hurt, I guess. It's like the thing in your teeth. You get something in your teeth.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. You want to know. I want to tell you that kind of thing. You don't have anything in your teeth.
Right.
Now,
No,
but,
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I would hope you'd fix that in post production.
Yeah.
No, I would say Tash is an expert at delivering feedback.
Yeah.
She's still someone that I rely on for that feedback, and we still have conversations about that. So it's a great source that you cite there. Sometimes it's not even just so much as what you say, it's when you say it, right? So it's one of those things I learned when my daughter was a soccer player, and I remember right after a game that they lost, as soon as they get in the car, you want to give them feedback on how they played out there, what you saw. They don't want to hear it right then and there. They're still upset about losing the game. So we finish the game, we get in the car, have some ice cream, go home, wait. A few hours later, she'd come downstairs, and then she would want to talk about the game.
Mhm.
And then I would give her some feedback, like you said, all the basic stuff, what you did well, what you can improve, kind of stuff. But that immediate feedback she was not ready for. And so I had to learn that after the first couple of times. And she's like, Dad, you don't know, you don't play. You're right. But what I learned is that, hey, it's all right. Let you decompress for a little bit. We'll come home. We'll watch some other soccer. And then we can maybe relate and tie it in like, oh, you see that great move here? I think you can try that next time you're out there playing. Then she received it a little better. So there's all kind of different, lessons you can learn about feedback going forward.
Timing, I think, is key too, and letting people kind of calm down. That's pretty key. You mentioned success. I mean, by all means, you're a successful person, but because you are, beyond that though, you probably view it a little differently. Like, what if I was to ask you, which I am, what is your personal definition of success?
So I haven't found it yet. So I don't know what the end state is. I want to keep accomplishing things, and it doesn't matter what they are, right? So I will tell you, the last 4 jobs I've held, I haven't applied for. And it's people that offer me a challenge. And so I'll take it and go forward with building on something. If there's an opportunity for me to do, and it has to be something that's difficult, I don't want to do anything easy. And so I don't know what it'll take to satisfy me from chasing, some of those challenges, but I just want to make sure at the end of the day, I can come home at night, sit still, and know that there was some worth in whatever I did for that day. And so the minute that stops happening, then I'll look to move on and do something different.
So we've been asking, I remember where I stole this idea from. It's a podcast called Diary of a CEO.
Mhm.
It's pretty good. Have you ever heard?
I've heard this.
Yeah, but I stole it, so it's my idea now. I'm kind of kidding, but basically we ask the last guest to leave a question to the next guest. The last guest was a Air Force General Sean Campbell. This is the question that he left for you. He didn't know it was going to be you, but you know, how do you define what your legacy will be, and what does that look like?
What my legacy will be.
What you want it to be?
Honestly, what I want it to be, I've invested so much in my life, my professional career, so much of what is baked into my DNA into aviation safety. And ideally, that's what my legacy would be: a safer, more integrated national airspace, and not even national, global airspace system. I'm involved in several global airspace initiatives and safety organizations. Really, I think back to probably, it was recent as 5 years ago. I should say no one, hardly anyone knew what an air traffic controller did. They just took it for granted when they got on an airplane. They were going to take off and they were going to land safely. And there was no mention, no thought of air traffic control. I want to get us back there, but I don't want it just to be for when you get on an airplane. I want it to be when you get on a rocket ship, when you get on that, commercial space thing out to the moon or wherever it is you're going, that as soon as you step on board, I'm going to take off and I'm going to land safely. If that is my legacy when I leave, then I'll be satisfied.
That's great. That's awesome. Who would play you in a movie?
I've got to go with Usher.
Usher? All
I'm going
right.
Usher. I'm going Usher.
All right. I like that. Can he act? I don't know.
I don't know if he can act, but we got the same round face.
All right.
And so that's what I'm going with.
I like that. All right. Well, I don't know who the next guest is. Well, we have a list of guests. But, I mean, if you were this to talk to leaders who've been through, long careers, lots of experience, lessons learned, all that stuff. So if you were to ask another leader of that caliber, what's a question that you...
I would say, it's kind of a question you phrased to me is looking backwards at, we've all made mistakes as leaders, right? Knowing what you know now and that the mistakes you've made in the past, what do you know now that you would have applied to those scenarios in the past to remedy those situations before they occurred, and whether that could be professionally, personally, just some life experience lessons. What have you picked up now that you go back and apply? So that's the biggest question I always ask, anyone retiring or anyone just leaving the organization. The best lessons are, you don't want to repeat history. So if there's something I can pick up from, I'd certainly appreciate that information.
That's a great question. Now, what kind of guests should we have on this show? Because we've had people like yourself, a lot of FAA, or aviation leaders, general from the Air Force. But it is about leadership, but leadership could be at all levels and all types of people and all types of jobs and all types of things. What would be and taking lessons and hearing the stories of senior leaders is great, but what about other people? So I don't know, is there a type of person that you'd like to hear from, even though they're not maybe retired?
What would be interesting for me to learn is, so right now you've got a lot of strategic thinkers probably coming on here, long range planners. I would love about leaders in dynamic situations, SWAT team sergeant, someone that has to make a rapid decision, high pressure, very little time to plan, think how they respond, recover, adapt and learn, and provide leadership, in those kind of events.
Yeah, where if you need tell someone they're doing a bad job, you can't wait. Maybe you have to
there's no pulling them aside. There's no time to think about what you're going to talk about. There's no long-term vision, but you still got to establish and maintain that relationship. Still have to establish discipline. You have to have that trust, all the same characteristics you've asked us about and discussed with us, but how do you apply those in dynamic, real-time, challenging situations? Because I think a lot of us, especially as we go up the line, we forget that there are people making these decisions real time, what goes into it, what do they factor in? And that helps us lead from above.
Is an air traffic controller that type of person, potentially?
Sometimes it's an air traffic controller, an air traffic control supervisor, or an operations manager. I think back to, some of the events that I've had occur during my career. And I think back to my supervisor of air traffic control during 9/11. I'm sure there was a lot of pressure on him or the operations manager. They had to make a lot of decisions, give a lot of orders without a lot of information, and just understanding what all they consider, what all factors, things they had to go through. And so I imagine there's lots of different career fields where that occurs, but
I think like ER and that kind of comes to the hospital. That comes to mind, like someone comes in with shot 3 times and then they gotta direct all these people to do stuff like in the movies. I assume it's that way in real life.
I assume so as well. I've never been there, but imagine a surgeon has to make so many decisions.
Give me whatever 500 cc's stat, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Nick? I mean, I know you're here for a while to keep our skies safe, but what kind of motivates you? What do you see kind of in your future?
I don't know. I serve I've been in public service since I was 17. It's whatever the next challenge is. If there's a need for me, then that's kind of what I want to do. I set out again. I walked into Kansas City Center. I had one thing I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to be in charge of the building. My goal was to be an air traffic manager, my own facility. It's the one job in the FAA I haven't done. And I've done everything else above and beneath that position. But if there's a need for me to do something else, I'm happy to do it if it's a challenge and if it makes the sky safer, then that's what I'm going to do. So whether it's being the deputy COO or going back to be an operations manager in an air traffic facility, if that's what the public needs from me, then that's probably what I'll do.
That's awesome. Well, Nick, thank you for sharing your journey, lessons learned, how discipline made you who you are, and appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
Thank you.